This guy is a psychiatric patient who takes out dangerous people during the day. But at night, he turns into a feared killer demon in the martial arts world. All because he single-handedly stormed Mount Rua and wiped out the entire sect in just one night. When the big martial arts sects came to rescue them, all they found was a hellish scene of carnage. Wait, is that really Mount Rua as we know it? Only a demon could have turned Mount Rua into a sea of blood. Just then, a shaky figure appeared in the distance, mumbling nonstop. It's over. It's all over. The Mount Rua sect has been completely wiped out. Everyone recognized him right away. Isn't that the sword master of the Mexera flower from the Mount Rua sect? The sword master of the Mexera flower spoke in desperation. The enemy took us all down single-handedly. Before he could finish, a flash of a sword appeared behind him and sliced him in half instantly. Seeing that, the crowd roared, "You demons, show yourself right now." Then they saw a man covered in blood come out slowly, still holding a severed head in his hand. Quite a crowd showed up. Ha Wong, King Chong, and Namgang. All four major sects are here. Who are you? Why are you slaughtering everyone here? Well, he said he heard the Mount Rua sect was the strongest in the martial world today. While saying that, he casually tossed the head of the Mount Rua sect leader onto the ground. Now that I've seen it with my own eyes, the rumors weren't all that impressive. Perfect. Since so many of you showed up, you should be able to keep him entertained for a while. Got it. The crowd was shaking with rage as they drew their weapons. Today I'm going to kill you right here and bring peace to the souls of the dead on Mount Rua. With that, the major sects moved forward together to surround Don Bansu. Watching that scene, he smiled. Just as I thought, this is an interesting world. When Don Bansu woke up again, he was already back home. This game is way too intense. Taking on a bunch of experts all by myself was still a bit much even for me. Turns out, it was a newly developed virtual reality game. Since the combat scenes were terrifyingly realistic, the game quickly attracted tons of players. While Don Bansu was still replaying the earlier fight in his mind, an urgent news bulletin cut into the TV broadcast. The president of Dion Company was missing and the police were searching all over the city. At the same time, a faint cry for help came from the room behind him, instantly grabbing his attention. This game was way too fun. Almost forgot about you. Saying that, Bansu grabbed the iron hammer beside him and slowly walked toward the room. A middle-aged man was kneeling on the floor, begging desperately for mercy. And this man was the missing president mentioned in the news. Bansu had kidnapped him because that fat guy was a total piece of trash. He liked to abuse and even kill innocent women. In the name of justice, Don Bansu treated people like him as prey. No matter how much the fat guy begged, Don Bansu didn't flinch. He just pressed the man's head against the cutting board. How many times have you used that pathetic begging act? Aren't you tired of it yet? Just as the hammer was about to fall, the fat guy, driven by survival instinct, smashed his head into Don Bansu's stomach. Caught off guard, Don Bansu dropped the weapon and was thrown back several meters. Taking advantage of the moment, the fat guy violently snapped the plastic handcuffs binding his arms. "You bastard. I'm going to make you die without even a place to be buried." Right after, he swung the hammer at Bansu. Seeing that my guy just smirked slightly and dodged to the side. The fat guy started shaking with fear, but unfortunately, it was already too late. Bansu landed a brutal punch to his gut. The pain was so intense it felt like his eyes were about to pop out, but Bansu didn't stop. Then he delivered a fierce kick to his waist, sending his body flying. At that moment, the fat guy was left with nothing but despair. Even though he was terrified of dying, he still crawled instinctively toward the light. He believed that where there's light, there's hope. But when he saw what was beyond that light, he realized what hell really meant. There were just corpses, one after another, dried up like mummies. Most humans are like herbivores, but hidden among them are some carnivorous beasts. They attack and devour the weak. And I'm the hunter who specializes in killing those carnivorous beasts. As Bansu moved forward step by step, the fat guy's fear hit its peak. Right now, the door got busted down. Suddenly, a big group of cops stormed in. No time. Don Bansu was surrounded on all sides. No way out. Don Bansu, I'm officially arresting you on suspicion of kidnapping, unlawful detention, and murder. Bansu looked shocked. How did you find this place? Out of nowhere, no one answered. They just opened fire. Kid, don't move. The next shot won't miss on purpose. Watching that scene, Bansu felt like he was back in the martial world from the game. That feeling was amazing. You guys know this guy killed 6 women. He tortured them to death, and even recorded all for fun. The bodies behind me are the same. They're all killers. Don't you think they're just animals? I'm just a hunter hunting animals. But even after hearing all that, the cop in front of you didn't show any anger. He just calmly lit a cigarette. Even if everything you said is true, so what? To me, you're nothing more than a legal psychopathic killer. Hearing that, Don Bansu burst out laughing. As expected, There was no reasoning with these mortals, saying that he swung the iron hammer in his hand. The cop tried to stop him, but it was already too late. The sound of the gunshot and the skull cracking happened at the same time. I've never regretted what I did. If there's a next life, I just hope I can freely tear those animals apart, just like in that amazing martial world. Scene after scene from his past flashed before his eyes like a non-stop movie in Don Bonsu's final moments. When he woke up again, he realized he was still alive. Not bad, kid. You're tough. Didn't even die after getting beat like that. But when a man saw Don Bonsu's dead, empty eyes and indescribable rage surged through his mind. You damn kid. Do you have any idea how hard it was to drag you off the streets? Just wait. Tomorrow you're definitely going to die. Getting hit for no reason made Don Bonsu's anger explode instantly. He stared at the man's back, grabbed a rock from the ground, ready to rush forward and attack him. But the moment he stood up, his whole skeleton cracked and his limbs just wouldn't obey him. The next second, he collapsed heavily to the ground. Seeing those thin arms, Bonsu finally realized something was seriously wrong with that body. He opened the clothes, he hurried, and then confirmed it. That body wasn't his. He peeked out the door carefully, trying to figure out where he was. The next moment, he was totally shocked by what he saw. The place was super familiar. It was exactly the martial world he'd been dreaming about. Bonsu could hardly believe his wish had come true like this. Amazing. Welcome player Don Bonsu to Miran Online, a world with a strong rule. The old owner of that body was named Sawsum, and a natural disaster wiped out his family. Left completely alone, surviving like a bug. To get food, he became the lowest servant in the Dan family. Anyone could humiliate him whenever they wanted. Psalm, get out here right now. I need you to do something now, sir, but I haven't finished cleaning the stable yet. Before Sawsum could finish speaking, Big S forcefully covered her mouth. I'm not arguing with you. Don't forget your place. You're just an orphan chosen by the Dan family. So don't get cocky just because they showed you a little kindness. The next moment, Don Bonsu was taken to the smithy by Don Hong. Meanwhile, Emil rushed to the inn to have some fun. When the owner saw that only the two of them had arrived, he couldn't hide his worry. Can you two really carry all those weapons? Boss, you got it wrong for this kind of job. Just Sawom is enough. Sawsum's like a racehorse. There's nothing she can't carry. All right, Sawom, stop just standing there and get moving with those weapons. After saying that, he turned around and headed to the inn to have fun, too. The owner felt really sorry watching all this, but there was nothing he could do. This was a world where the weak were prey to the strong. To survive, people could only fight like insects. Even if they kept falling, even if the road ahead was full of thorns, they still had to crawl all the way through. But fate loved to mess with people above all else. Even though he finished work today, his body was already at its breaking point. He walked back down the road like a lifeless corpse, feeling nothing. Suddenly, Sawom seemed to crash into a wall. Sorry, I didn't mean to. The only response he got was a hard punch. What did I start messing up? Was it when I knocked on the Henry family's gate just to survive? Or when the typhoon took my family and I was the only one left? Maybe it all started the moment I was born in a place like that. Don Bonsu had a really long dream. When he woke up, he immediately realized that everything in that dream was the experiences of the old owner of this body. In other words, the real Sawsum had already been beat to death back then, and Bonsu's consciousness took over this body. At that moment, out of the corner of his eye, Bonsu noticed something strange. It was a Murim online system window. Lately, Bonsu had been way too hurt. So, Emil brought him food every day. Damn, I really got to serve that brat every single day. After work, he should have just gone straight home. But no, he had to end up running into that grumpy penguin. And now look at this. I'm stuck cleaning up that bastard's mess. I should just kill him already, but the risk is way too high. If they find out my own head on the line, too. Furious, Emil kicked the stable door and casually threw the day's food in front of Bonsu. Then, he walked off without even looking back. It had already been 2 weeks since Don Bonsu transmigrated to that place. From what Emil said and the info he'd gathered outside, he knew the people there were using Chinese characters. But that wasn't Earth, because martial arts really did exist in that world. It was the kind of power you only see in movies and novels. People could move through the air so fast that normal eyes couldn't keep up. The legendary martial arts were real there. It was basically a real-life version of Murim Online, and there was also a system window. Status bar like one from a game hovered right in front of Bonsu's eyes, but no one else could see it. At first, he thought this place was just a game world. But after watching for several days, he was sure this was the real world. Everyone he met had their own consciousness. They were all living human beings. If this place is real, then am I a human or just a player? While Bonsu was still lost in thought, Don walked through the door. Saw some little brother. Did you know someone almost got beat to death because of some idiot and was only released today? I spent all this time thinking about you. But when Bonsu saw who it was, he just slowly stood up. He grabbed the food for the day and swallowed it all at once. You bastard. Didn't you hear me talking to you? Looks like you really want to die. When he heard the threat, Bonsu just stared at him coldly, then smashed the porcelain bowl in his hand. He grabbed a sharp piece and plunged it straight into Don's neck. Blood sprayed everywhere as Don kept making incomprehensible noises. Unfortunately, the guy you once knew was long gone, killed by all of you a while back. As he spoke, Bonsu lifted the shard again and stabbed hard. At that moment, he had completely lost it. The sounds of flesh tearing mixed with his laughter. The whole world seemed drenched in red blood. The boiling blood dripped drop by drop like a storm. It didn't matter anymore whether I'm human or player. I'm sure of only one thing. This place is reality. This world works like a game. The weaker pray to the strong, and the strong rule everything. Finally, I don't have to hide my true nature anymore. I'm going to hunt here until I'm satisfied. Hunt stronger predators with higher ranks. This place is going to become a real paradise for hunters. And so, Bonsu made his first kill after crossing into this world. Of course, someone like that wasn't worth much as prey. But there was one thing he needed to check. The inventory in that system seemed a bit different for what he remembered. The inventory in Murim Online was a grid, and each slot could only hold one type of item. But now it had turned into a chaotic interface. And when he reached his hand toward it, he could actually pass straight through. Inside seemed to be an enormous space, at least hundreds of square meters in size. If this system interface functions the same way as in the game, then as long as I touch the item I want to store with my hand with a thought, Don Guok's corpse instantly turned into data. Next second, those streams of data were directly sucked into the system space. Bonsu stared in shock at the bizarre scene before him. A guy that big actually fit in there just like that. This function is way too useful. At that moment, Bonsu suddenly thought, if it's a living thing, can it be stored too? He had to try it when he got the chance. The scene shifted to a few days later. The injuries on Bansu's body had basically healed. To avoid arousing suspicion, he pretended that he had become mute. While continuing to do the usual dirty and exhausting work, he secretly observed this world. Suddenly, ML slapped Bonsu from behind. You brat, I heard you turn mute to avoid exposing yourself. Bonsu could only grin foolishly and mumble sounds no one could understand. You mute brat, stop slacking off here. Take that horse out for a walk. Don Bonsu merely bowed to show that he understood. ML cursed irritably. Good grief. What am I supposed to do with an idiot who can't even talk? The scene changed, and Bonsu led the fine horse onto the street. Just as Bonsu was admiring the old-fashioned street scenery, several ill-intentioned figures suddenly appeared from the corner. It was actually a group of little brats picking up stones and hurling them at Bonsu. Piece of gravel struck his head on the spot, and blood flowed continuously down through the gaps in his hair. Big Idiot Sawsum has turned into Mute Idiot now. Just as the little monsters were about to keep mocking him, Bansu's face darkened, and a terrifying pressure radiated from him. The chubby boy thought he was seeing things and kept rubbing his eyes. But when he looked again, Bonsu still appeared to be his usual foolish self. Bansu mumbled a few incoherent sounds and turned to leave. The chubby boy thought Bonsu had backed down and immediately became smug again. He kept jeering at his departing figure. Psalm is a mute. He can't do anything. He's an idiot. The scene shifted, and ML arrived at the entrance to the weapons storeroom. He was still grumbling. They actually made me come sort the weapons by myself. Who knows where the hell Don Guok has been these past 2 days? At that moment, Bansu came out of the weapons storeroom. ML was shocked to discover that the weapons in the storeroom had been arranged neatly and orderly. You brat, you finished all my work. Bonsu immediately nodded and bowed, fawning repeatedly. Who would have thought this guy would become smarter after dying once? At that moment, Bonsu took out a small cloth pouch, indicating it was a tribute for ML. As soon as Mel opened it, he froze. Inside, it was full of copper coins. You brat, you're pretty good at handling things today. You finally understand some rules. I guarantee that from now on, Don Quack will never dare bully you again. After saying that, ML left with the money pouch in hand, grinning broadly. Meanwhile, the foolish look on Bonsu and LT, Unk and GT's face slowly faded and his eyes turned cold. Go ahead and laugh all you want now. It won't be long before you can't laugh anymore. With money in hand, ML was thrilled. Since I've got money today, I'll go have some fun with that little vixen. Soon he hurried excitedly to the Phoenix Vixen. Master Mel, what blew you here today? I'll go calling out right away. Boss, wait a second. I'm not looking for and young today. That top courtesan of yours chosen. I'm picking her tonight. Hearing that, the owner's face instantly sank because he knew ML normally had no money and couldn't afford the top courtesan. But when he saw the pouch of copper coins in ML's hand, he immediately piled on a smile again. Master Mac, this way please. I'll have Chosen come over at once. The scene shifted, and ML had already entered the private room, waiting excitedly. Before long, a stunning beauty pushed the door open and entered. As expected of the top courtesan, she's more than 100 times prettier than and young. Yet, while they were laughing and making merry, ML had no idea that in the gap behind the wooden boards at his back, a blood red, I was staring fixedly at this place. That's right. The owner of that, I was none other than the mad protagonist. Time returned to a little earlier. Owner watched Ma walk into the Phoenix Vixen, then lowered his head to look at the pouch of copper coins in his hand, and the corners of his mouth immediately lifted in a satisfied smile. But at that moment, a figure walked in. The person who entered was Bonsu, who had followed ML all the way. Mute. What are you doing here? Do you know what kind of place this is if you don't get out right now? But before the owner could finish speaking, he was interrupted by the money pouch Bansu handed over. With great difficulty in his pronunciation, he squeezed out the 4 words, Miss Any. The owner opened the pouch, and when he saw it filled to the brim with copper coins, his pupils instantly widened. He immediately put on a friendly smile. Sir, please go upstairs to the 2nd floor. I will be there shortly. And just like that, Bonsu also went up to the 2nd floor of the Phoenix Vixen. Everything happening in ML's room was seen clearly by Bonsu next door. After ML had his fill of passion, Bonsu silently slipped over from the neighboring room. Just as ML was still wrying in his own prowess, Bonsu gently brought the bandage in his hand toward him and in the next second looped it around his neck, tightening it instantly. He yanked both ends of the bandage hard with both hands and strangled him to death. Damn it, which damn bastard is this? ML reacted and struggled frantically. But Bonsu's chokehold did not loosen in the slightest. At the moment of life and death, ML used the last of his strength to leap up violently and slam Bonsu to the ground with his huge body. So what even if you do that? As long as Bonsu's hands did not loosen, there was no escape for him. Tonight, either you die or I do. As Bonsu gradually applied more force, Mac's whole body began to convulse, and those once lively eyes slowly rolled white. How marvelous to personally feel a life disappear bit by bit before my eyes. Bonsu fought to the very end and finally strangled him to death. Then his gaze fell on the woman beside them, who was still sound asleep. He walked up to her and lowered his head to stare. With just one look, he was certain this woman was a herbivore. After confirming that she had not awakened, Bonsu turned and walked toward the wooden board he had come through. The reason an extra passage had suddenly appeared here was because he had made use of the system inventory. As long as he touched the wooden board in front of him, he could directly store it in the space. Sure enough, figuring out more ways to use the system is crucial for future hunting. And after I killed Mac, my experience points also went up, which means this place is just like the game. You can gain experience by killing people, then level up and grow stronger. The stronger I become, the easier hunting will be. At the same time, my experience will increase even faster. Perfect. I can grow stronger without limit. This is how the world ought to be. And at this moment, the owner finally met Miss and Young outside the door. My apologies. I was delayed by something just now. Stop doling. The guest is still waiting for you inside, so hurry. Since he paid, even if the other party is a mute, you still have to serve him well. Come to think of it, Mel and Chosen have been in there so long without coming out. They're not really planning to spend the whole night inside, are they? The owner impatiently knocked on ML's door. Brother Mac, that's about enough. Chosen should come out now. But after waiting a long time, there was no movement at all from inside. Just as the owner was about to start cursing loudly, Chosen's scream suddenly came from inside the room. The owner's face changed, and he immediately pushed the door open and rushed in to check only to see Chosan wrapped in a quilt looking up in terror. The owner was so frightened that he collapsed to the ground on the spot. He never could have imagined that the spirited and swaggering Mackle from just moments ago would hang himself in his own inn. From then on, a virus that could lead people silently toward death began to spread quietly across this royal land. Since ancient times, it was precisely because the land was fertile and the lakes were interconnected that commerce and trade were able to flourish continuously. But once money gathers in one place, bandits and villains are bound to follow. To maintain order, many powerful clans gradually rose in the region of Anhui. Among them, the most representative were the Namon clan, the #1 family in Anhui, and the Danri clan. Although the Danri family was not one of the 5 great families, it was still considered a top-tier noble house in the Central Plains. In particular, they were famous for their exclusive military force, the Cross Heavenly Sword Legion, and for their intelligence-renowned enforcement unit, the Black Crow Squad. These two forces were especially well known throughout the Central Plains. However, the Black Crow Squad had recently run into an extremely thorny matter. Another suicide plague. More than 100 people have killed themselves for no reason this month already. There were suicides before, too, but at most 1 or 2 a month. It's never been this outrageous. There is absolutely something abnormal about this. But at present, all the evidence points to one thing. They really did commit suicide. Something like this. Is it really possible? Chief Jideo suddenly thought of something and immediately asked who the first person to commit suicide was. When he learned that it was Mac of the Danry family and that he had killed himself while listening to music at the Phoenix Vixen, Jideo immediately led his men to the scene of the incident. If this so-called suicide plague was actually murder, then how exactly did the killer get in to kill ML? After carefully examining the scene, Jideo found that every possible entrance and exit could be ruled out. Then that left only this wall. If the wooden boards were removed, it really would allow free passage. But the problem was that there was absolutely no trace of it having been tampered with, because to remove the boards without damaging them, the entire roof would have to be lifted off first. Could it be that it really could only be explained as suicide? When Mel died, was there anyone in the next room? Reporting to you, sir. Yes, that person arrived around the same time as Mel. It was some of the Danry family. At that moment, Bonsu was still leading a horse around the streets. He had killed enough people lately that his experience bar was nearly full. And he had also discovered that the stronger the target, the more experience it gave. But as he was now, he was still no match for those martial artists. Just as he was thinking about his next target, a voice called out, "Isn't this awesome? Haven't seen you in a few days. How come you seem a lot more handsome?" A group of street thugs stood at the entrance of an alley, grinning at him. "Why don't you come over here and greet your big brothers properly?" Bonsu had not expected that even if Sawsum had been stupid before, he had still at least belonged to the Danry family. Yet he could still be bullied by trash like this. Seeing that Bonsu showed no reaction to what he said, the gang leader walked up and grabbed Bonsu by the hair. "Som, come on, let's find somewhere quiet and have a nice little talk. How about it?" With that, he dragged Bonsu into the alley. Meanwhile, Bonsu was calculating whether he could kill them all and disguise it as suicide or simply stuff the bodies into the system inventory. It was just that there were too many of them, making exposure likely. And even if he killed them all, the experience gained would not be much. "I'll take a few hits first and stabilize the situation, then find a chance to deal with them later." But just as a thug swung his fist at Bonsu, "That's enough. Don't start anything here." A voice from the darkness instantly suppressed the scene. "Didn't I tell you to invite him over?" When the thug saw who had come, he immediately began trembling in fear. "Brother Django, why did you come in person?" But Django paid him no attention at all and walked straight toward the fine horse behind Banu. "Nice horse. Our Black Snake Guild leader is most obsessed with horses, so I want to present this horse to our leader. What do you think?" Bonsu sensed the killing intent coming from him. This man had intended to kill and take the horse from the very beginning. He had simply chosen the wrong prey. Seeing that Bonsu still did not move, Django's face turned completely cold. "I don't want to say it a second time." Before he even finished speaking, Bonsu said coldly, "Drop the axe. If you want it, then come kill me and try." With that, he swung his fist straight at the man's head. At the same time, he summoned the system space and instantly took out the dagger inside. To everyone else, it looked as if a blade had appeared out of thin air in his hand. The originally composed Django's pupils contracted on the spot, his face filled with horror. But everything was already too late. Until his death, he never understood how exactly he had died. The dagger pierced his neck with perfect precision. The next second, dazzling light exploded from Bonsu's body. "Congratulations, player. Your level has increased to level 2. The surrounding thugs were blinded by the intense light and could not open their eyes. This is definitely evil sorcery. That damned bastard actually knows this kind of sinister witchcraft." But when he barely managed to make out the scene inside the light, cold sweat instantly poured down his body. A terrifying shadow was emerging as if from the abyss. A devil? This guy has to be a devil. The thugs turned and ran. He did not know what exactly he had just seen, but he knew one thing. If he did not run, he would die. As long as he rushed into the patch of sunlight ahead, he would survive. But the next second, the man's calf was ruthlessly cut off. He crashed heavily to the ground. When hope is right in front of my eyes, am I really going to die here? That guy used to be nothing but a coward. And when we bullied him, he would only grin stupidly. Why is he now turned into such a terrifying demon? I can't accept this. I'm actually going to die at the hands of such an ugly monster. When the man woke up again, he found that he was somehow still alive. Not bad. You woke up pretty fast. Seeing the bald man awaken, Bonsu slowly walked toward. He took out a dagger and pressed it directly against the man's neck. "I ask one question. You answer one question. One extra word is worthless nonsense. Who was that man called Django just now?" With death hanging over his head, the bald man was so frightened that he spilled everything he knew. Django was actually a cadre of the Black Snake Guild, and the Black Snake Guild was one of the gang forces that controlled the back streets of Phoenix. Its leader was named Bang Piam, and it was he who had instructed Jang Ho to kill and seize the horse. I'm just a lackey who runs errands. Please, I'm begging you. Let me go. Tell me everything you know about the Black Snake Guild. If the information is useful, I'll spare your life. Hearing that he could live, hope instantly lit up in the bald man's eyes. But in the end, he still could not escape death. Bansu lightly touched him with his palm, and the bald man immediately turned into particles of light and was stored in the system space. After he cleaned away every trace, the alley returned to dead silence. He began organizing the intelligence he had just obtained. People like gangsters are positioned perfectly between martial artists and ordinary people. They're the most suitable prey for leveling up. I didn't expect to find them this quickly, and when I leveled up just now, all the wounds on my body disappeared completely. Maybe even damage to the heart or brain can be restored. This is almost exactly the same as the game. There's also the light that appears when leveling up. It looks flashy, but it could also attract real danger. That flaw must be hidden. If a hunter wants to entangle his prey, he must appear ordinary enough. Only when I resemble the crowd so closely that I can't be distinguished from them am I the highest level hunter. From now on, if I level up, it must either be at the instant a hunt ends or only where the prey is present. Now relying only on the disguise of being a mute is no longer enough. Without being discovered, I must grow stronger as quickly as possible. Thinking this, Bansu led the horse out of the dark alley, slowly merged into the crowd, and his figure was soon swallowed by the tide of people. After he returned to the stable, the system suddenly popped up an error message box. This made him sink into thought. The reason was probably within himself, and because of this error, the attributes that had previously shown only question marks now turned into progress bars. Curious, Bansu opened the skill panel below. The next second, an entire row of skills filled his vision. Skills: Slush Thrust, Guard Throw, Spirit Eye. The ones at the front were all default passive from Murim Online, but he had never heard of Spirit Eye. Just as Bansu was still studying the effects of Spirit Eye, the system prompted, "An enemy more than 10 levels higher than you has entered within a 20m radius." As time passed, that 20m range was continuously shrinking. Bansu stared at the line in disbelief. This looked like some sort of warning system. In other words, a dangerous person is approaching me right now. That shouldn't be possible. Very few people would dare trespass into the Danry family grounds. And if it were an intruder, they couldn't possibly be moving this slowly. That means the person approaching is most likely an expert from within the family itself. Although, I don't know exactly how large a gap 10 levels represents. Judging from the price I paid just to reach level 2, that gap must be unbelievably huge. If I only kill ordinary people, then to reach level 10, I would probably need to kill thousands, maybe even tens of thousands. A martial artist of that level would not be common, even within the Danry family. The next second, the door in front of him was pushed open. The Black Crow squad chief walked in with his subordinates. Bansu immediately put on a shocked expression. He knew that he absolutely could not reveal even the slightest flaw. This man was definitely not someone he could fool casually. "You must be Sawom, right? Tell me, was it you who killed Mac?" Hearing this, Bansu immediately showed a terrified expression. He babbled and gestured frantically, desperately indicating that it was not him. But Gadito had no intention of stopping there. He suddenly exerted force with his palm, and a surge of violent truki instantly poured into Banu's body. Bansu felt that force rampaging wildly through his body, then frantically converging toward a certain place. That place was like a black hole, swallowing all the energy completely clean. Ged probed for a moment, then withdrew his hand and let out a soft sigh. "It seems I was mistaken." With that, he turned and left. Only a pair of cold eyes remained in the darkness, silently watching their departing backs. "Chief, are we just leaving like this? Weren't you suspicious of him? Why not interrogate him formally? There's no need anymore." Just now, I injected Chu Kai into his body to investigate. Even someone who has practiced even a little martial arts would definitely leave traces inside the body. But the result was empty. There was nothing at all. I can be sure he's just an ordinary person who has never learned martial arts. Could so many people really have committed suicide? If it really is a suicide plague, then how many more people have to die before it ends? But from that day onward, the suicide plague suddenly vanished without a trace. And in its place, a new bloody storm swept across all of Phoenix. A nameless wandering hero suddenly emerged in the underworld and began settling accounts with those gangs one by one. Even a famous White Tiger Gang and Scarlet Wolf sect were directly wiped out. Keep your voice down. Only the Black Snake Guild is left now. If they hear you, it won't end well. What's there to be afraid of? Sooner or later, our nameless hero will deal with them, too. Hearing these rumors about himself, Bonsu silently left the vixen and walked toward tonight's target, the last gang, the Black Snake Guild headquarters. Because the nameless hero had been striking again and again lately, panic had already spread through the Black Snake Guild. I heard that guy's already wiped out 3 gangs. Now only the Black Snake Guild is left. All of you stay sharp and stop slacking off. But in the very next second, the man beside him was beheaded on the spot. The man stared at the scene before him in utter disbelief. The companion who had been alive just a moment ago had fallen in the blink of an eye. The instant he drew his sword to protect himself, Bonsu was already standing behind him and with a single clean, decisive slash took his life directly. Go down and keep your companion company. After that, Bonsu slowly pushed open the gates of the Black Snake Guild and without pausing for even a step, walked straight inside. Bonsu was still wondering where everyone inside had hidden when the next second a rain of arrows fell from the sky. Bonsu immediately leapt backward and avoided the arrows. He raised his eyes toward the direction the arrows had come from, and beneath the city wall, a dense mass of Black Snake Guild members poured out in an instant. So they had already laid a trap, and were only waiting for Bonsu to walk into it himself. The man in the lead shouted sternly, "You nameless rat, you dare come cause trouble in the Black Snake Guild?" Facing this pack of ferocious thugs, Bonsu did only one thing. He assumed the opening stance for drawing his sword. Get him! Kill this arrogant bastard! As soon as the words fell, everyone grabbed their weapons and charged in together. Some even leapt into the air and attacked Bonsu from all sides. Bonsu gripped the hilt tightly, and a powerful force instantly wrapped around the entire scabbard. The 3 forces' sword art sweep away 1,000 troops. With a flash of sword light, the men rushing forward were cut in 2 on the spot. The thugs in the rear, who had not yet charged, were completely dumbstruck at the sight. But by the time they thought of running, it was already too late. Bonsu's blade never stopped. It was as fast as the wind, and one thug after another fell. At that moment, an elite in the distance split his eyes with rage. All of you get out of the way. I'll kill this brat myself. He lunged forward with his spear. Bonsu casually seized the wrist of the man beside him, gave it a light twist and throw, and hurled that man into the air. Immediately after, he used the momentum to smash the man into the elite while the long blade in his hand was already in position. With one thrust, both men were skewered together on the spot. Until the moment of his death, that elite could not believe that he would die at the hands of someone as despicable as Bonsu. Just then, a scar-faced man suddenly appeared behind Bonsu and brought down his blade. Brat, gotohel. Bonsu tried to draw his sword and turned to counterattack, but he had not expected that his sword would be firmly seized by the thug from before. At the razor's edge between life and death, Bonsu used the system space to strike out a flash of sword light from behind, instantly splitting the scar-faced man's head in half. That's impossible. He clearly didn't even turn his head. Bonsu was just inwardly relieved that he had prepared a backup plan in advance when a dagger suddenly plunged into his abdomen without warning. The violent impact blasted his whole body flying. Finally caught your opening. I thought you were some monster that didn't fear death, but it turns out you're just a person who bleeds, too. As long as you're human, we can kill you. Bonsu grabbed the broken blade, lodged in his abdomen with his bare hand, and yanked it out. Then raised his hand and lifted off the bamboo hat, blocking his vision. Wonderful. In such a beautiful world, I'm going to enjoy myself properly. With those words, Bonsu smiled and charged back into the crowd once more. Meanwhile, in a thatched hut not far from the exit beneath the city wall, several men hid in the shadows and coldly observed the battle. What's going on? There are a lot fewer screams now. Don't tell me he really killed everyone by himself. Usually we just extorted a bit of money and have done a little human trafficking a few times. There are plenty of bastards worse than us. So why is he targeting us specifically just because we're easy to bully? We have to settle him here. We absolutely cannot let him break through to the back. The guild leader is in a manner. Just then, a figure appeared at the gate of the tower. The man immediately ordered the hidden archers to fire. The next second, countless arrows shot out from inside the thatched hut, all racing toward that dark silhouette. He then stuck his head out, anxious to confirm whether the target was dead. But in the very next second, the archer behind him was suddenly decapitated. Then, as if a plague were spreading, the people inside the hut were beheaded one after another. The man was utterly terrified and dumbfounded. No matter how hard he tried, he could not believe it. In just an instant, all his men had fallen dead for no clear reason. Nameless hero, come out. I know you're in there. What exactly do you want? Why are you trying to wipe us all out? You're nothing but a devil. Before he could finish, his head flew off. There's only one thing I want, your lives. At this moment, the Black Snake Guild was already littered with corpses, and Bonsu had finally reached that brightly lit manor. The only one left before him was Bang Piyam, the leader of the Black Snake Guild. At first, it had been the White Tiger Gang. He killed Django there and leveled up because of it. But compared to truly powerful opponents, that slight increase was still not enough. To continue growing stronger, Bansu began using all kinds of tactics. Lure the enemy deep in, strike from behind, and even set fire directly to their camp. By the time the other side realized something was wrong, there was already no road left to retreat. At this point, more than half of the White Tiger Gang had already been slaughtered by him. And during this process, the common people gave his killing a name, the Nameless Hero. This new mask of the Nameless Hero also made it easier for him to clean out the gangs. The moment Bansu cut down the White Tiger Gang leader, he had already reached level 5 and had obtained 2 new skills, Lightness Skill and the 3 Forces Sword Art. This finally gave him the strength to suppress gangs hidden. And now, among the gangs left in Phoenix City, only one remained, the Black Snake Guild. In the deepest part of the Black Snake Guild, an old man sat quietly at the entrance of the manor. This man was the Black Snake Guild leader himself, Bang Piyam. Bolt of lightning crashed down, and Bansu had already fought his way here. So, you're the Nameless Hero. Facing Bang Piyam's question, Bansu did not utter a single word. You don't want to waste words with this old man, since you call yourself a hero. Why wrap yourself so tightly? Are you afraid I'll recognize you? Unfortunately, imnoaru. I'm just a madman who wants to slaughter. That so-called hero is merely a name those people came up with themselves. Hearing this, Bang Piyam burst out laughing on the spot. So that's it. The great nameless hero they worship is actually a murderer. That's far too interesting. It seems that even if I die here today, I won't regret it. Come, let this old man see just how strong a killer like he really is. With that, he raised his sword and advanced toward Bansu step by step. At the same time, Bansu also fully released the killing intent inside his body. 2 auras collided head-on in an instant, but after several exchanges, Bansu gradually fell into a disadvantage. Bang Piyam caught an opening in his defense and thrust his sword straight at Bansu and LT, Unk and GT, S-arm. Bansu had thought the distance was insufficient, but as the sword light swept past, a bloody gash instantly split open across his arm. Blood splattered on the spot. Bansu immediately retreated and forcibly widened the distance. Just as I thought, your body is in terrible condition right now. That is your greatest mistake. You dare challenge me while already injured. Today, I'll make you understand what price arrogance demands. Bang Piyam attacked like a madman, targeting Bansu's wounds again and again. If this fight keeps going like this, my injuries will only get worse and worse. I have to change tactics immediately. Bansu was still forcing himself to think of a countermeasure, but Bang Piyam attacked once more, preparing to finish him off completely. Bansu hurriedly used the 3 Forces Sword Art to block Hedon. But in the next instant, the opponent's weapon suddenly came apart and coiled around Bansu's arm like a venomous snake, directly severing his left hand. Damn it! Bansu forcibly activated his lightness skill and kicked Bang Piyam in the abdomen, sending him flying on the spot and smashing violently into the building beside them. Bansu had just thought he might have a moment to catch his breath when countless black serpent phantoms suddenly rose from the ground. He stared fixedly at the scene before him in disbelief. What kind of martial technique is this? The next second, a giant void serpent stretched across before him. Ben Poyam slowly spoke. You truly surprised this old man. Your fighting style is not like a warrior's, but more like an assassin's, like a hunter's. You should remember, when dueling a martial artist, the more trump cards you hide, the longer you live. And now this old man has more hidden cards than you. That is why you will lose. As he spoke, he swung the giant serpent phantom in his hand. Under this strike, you have nowhere left to go. It's time to end this nameless, murderous madman. D. The savage serpent phantom hung in midair like a giant beast looking down on its prey, completely pinning Bansu in place. The instant it opened its fangs and pounced, Bansu suddenly drove force into his right foot and stomped heavily on the ground. Dust exploded upward and instantly swallowed the area where he stood. You think using dust to blind this old man's eyes will let you evade my attack. At that moment, a light shone within the dust. Seeing this, Bang Piyam immediately attacked the source of the light with all his might. Finally caught you. But the moment he saw what he had hit, his eyes widened instantly. It was actually the corpse of a Black Snake Guild underling. Damn it. This brat even knows trickery to deceive the eye. Where exactly did his real body go? Meanwhile, Bansu had already leapt high into the air. The 3 Forces Sword Art second form drive straight for the yellow dragon. The sword force plunged from the sky and stabbed straight for Bang Piyam and LT, Unk and GT, S-Heart. But Bansu had not expected that Bang Piyam would catch the strike barehanded with his palm, causing the sword to veer away from the fatal point. As expected of an old veteran, he could make that kind of judgment in that instant. At this moment, Bang PM had gone completely mad. He whipped his sharp weapon around and suddenly reversed the direction of the blade, shooting straight toward Bansu. Bansu wanted to retreat, but the sword in his hand was firmly seized by the other party. Left with no choice, he immediately summoned the system space. In front of Bang PM, one underling corpse after another suddenly appeared, frightening him into wildly slashing his blade in all directions. Within only a few breaths, he chopped all those bizarre things into pieces. When silence finally returned around them, Bang PM barely managed to suppress that agitation inside himself. He suddenly swept his gaze across the surroundings, rapidly searching for Bansu's figure. But the place was empty without a single person in sight. "You damned nameless killer. Get out here, you lunatic. You won't even spare the dead." Just then, an arrow shot through the air, and Bang PM raised his sword to block it. "You despicable thing. Don't let me catch you." But in the next second, another arrow brushed past the bridge of his nose from behind. Only then did Bang PM realize he was becoming the prey, like a lamb waiting to die. At that moment, a black shadow flashed past in front of him. Bang PM lost his reason and without thinking lashed out fiercely with his snake whip. "I finally got you." But when he saw the shadow clearly, he realized it was only a severed arm. In the next instant, Bang felt a tide of coldness surge up behind him, a grim pressure stabbing into his spine. Immediately after, a sharp blade pierced through his chest. Bang PM had never imagined that in the end, the one who would lose was still himself, and that it also meant all the gangs of Phoenix had been completely annihilated. "Before I die, can you tell this old man your reason for doing all this? Does there need to be a reason? Humans are born to slaughter one another. Ever since they were still like apes up to today when they built civilization. It has never stopped. Even after coming to this martial world, it is still the weak devouring the weak and the strong reigning supreme. Only this time, the strong one is me. Phoenix's gangs have been cleared out. Now it's time to enter the next stage to go someplace stronger and harder to hunt." At this moment, deep within distant mountain ranges stood a powerful sect of the Murim world. Inside the main hall, everyone was holding an emergency meeting. The person at the head spoke solemnly. There are still 2 years until the war between the righteous and demonic factions. So, it is about time to activate our plan. Like Cloud received the order, this subordinate is here. Carry out the first scheme. The scene shifted, and after wiping out all the gangs, Bansu was still as usual out on the street walking the horse. But at some point, news of the gangs being exterminated had already spread throughout all of Phoenix. Did you hear that? Nameless Hero even wiped out the Black Snake Gang in one sweep. We shouldn't call him the Nameless Hero anymore. We should call him a great hero. If not for him, we'd still be getting trampled under those people's feet. But the man in green beside them vaguely felt that something was off. But even if he is a hero slaughter on this scale, is it really a good thing? What's wrong with it? That bunch of bastards were complete scum through and through. Whether it's the authorities or the famous righteous sects, none of them have ever cared about poor people like us. In the end, isn't the only one willing to stand up for us. The Nameless Hero. The man in green thought about it, and had to admit that those words were blunt but true. In times like these, other than the Nameless Hero, who else would stand up for people like us? That's right, the Nameless Hero is our hero. The man excitedly raised both hands and ran onto the street, shouting, "Long live the Nameless Hero." The other two exchanged glances, then also began shouting. Those bastards from a Black Snake Gang got what they deserved. Long live the Nameless Hero. Very quickly, the surrounding common people were ignited by the emotion, and one after another, they poured into the streets with wave after wave of cheers. Meanwhile, Bansu walked through the crowd, watching it all with cold eyes. About time I should lead. Time quickly passed until evening. Bansu led the fine horse back to the front of the stable. The system suddenly prompted an enemy more than 10 levels higher than you entered within a 20m radius. At that moment, the passive effect of Spirit I activated automatically. Bansu instantly understood there had to be a powerful expert inside the stable. Pretending to notice nothing, he raised his hand and pushed the door open. But there was more than one person inside. It was Gadito, the chief of the Black Crow Squad, who had come before. The other was the head of the Danri family, the flying heavenly demon sword, Danri Kain-Wu. Bansu did not know why he had appeared here, but he was certain of one thing. The man before him was not someone his current self could afford to provoke. Danri Kain-Wu reached out and stroked the fine horse. It is also time to part. Bansu was shocked to see that Danri Kain-Wu and LT, Unk and GT's feet had risen off the ground. What is this Qing Gong? He wondered in disbelief. Danri Kain-Wu continued. On the 15th of next month, the second daughter of the Namong family head will be married. So, you plan to offer your beloved horse as a wedding gift? Yes, as long as I can send one of my children into the Namong family. Even if I have to go further than this, I am willing. Whether it is marrying off a daughter or sending a son there as a disciple, two pieces of wood would cross a river more easily than one, do they not? But the Namong family may not accept either one. I know that is why I called you here. No matter what means you use, this matter must be accomplished. As those words fell, an invisible pressure dropped directly onto Gideo and LT, Unk and GT's shoulders. We leave tomorrow. There's still much to do. Driven into a corner with no room to retreat, Gady could only grit his teeth and agree. At this moment, Danri Kyan Wu looked toward Bonsu, who was kneeling on the ground. Take this fellow along as well. Let him watch over my horse on the journey. There must be no mistake. After saying that, he turned and left. Time quickly moved to the next day, and Bonsu arrived at the gathering place early in the morning to wait. Of course, beside him was the true star of this trip, Danri Kane Wu and LT, Unk and GT's beloved horse. There was only one thing in Bonsu's mind to grow stronger. He longed for real martial arts, not just the hollow shells of moves given by the system. He had once tried imitating the movements of family martial artists and gang fighters. But in the end, it was only imitation, never the real thing. The worst plan he could think of was to steal a secret manual and train by himself. The best plan was to find a true master and become his disciple. But becoming someone else's disciple was never easy. What was more, this body was already 18 years old. To begin learning martial arts at this age was practically already too late. But this time it happened to be an opportunity. The Namong family was one of the 5 great families of the Central Plains, wielding enormous power, and perhaps there he could find a way to learn martial arts. Moreover, stronger prey was waiting for him there as well. Not long later, Git arrived with his men and completed the assembly. But his subordinate reported that the young master and young lady accompanying them this time had not yet arrived. Danri, who disliked traveling with servants and would most likely catch up later. As for Danri Gong, he was probably still at on Phoenix Street. At this thought, Ged swung himself onto his horse and galloped toward Phoenix Street. The large group behind him could only follow helplessly. Soon, they arrived in front of an inn. Just then, a loud crash came from inside. Again, this guy really is a headache. Danri Gong was the eldest son of Danri Kane Wu. He was shockingly talented, a natural genius at martial arts, but his character was terrible. He was frivolous, fond of wine, and lustful, so his reputation around here had never been very good. Judging from the commotion, he was probably inside fighting at full tilt again. The next second, a figure was blasted out through the inner wall. The moment Gideo saw clearly who had been sent flying, he was instantly stunned. The person knocked flying was actually Danri Gong, the young master of the Danri family. Danri Gong fell to the ground and roared at the inn. "You bastard! I'm going to cut you into 1,000 pieces." But before he could finish speaking, a streak of light like electricity flashed past. Gideo could hardly believe that his family's young master had been beaten like this right before his eyes. Meanwhile, Bonsu was burning with excitement. The mysterious person before him was definitely an expert among experts, and overwhelmingly powerful at that. That expert even stepped on Danri Gong and LT, Unk and GT's face under the horrifying force pressing down. Danri Gong and LT, Unk and GT's face was visibly deformed beneath the foot. Guided flew into a rage on the spot. "You bastard, stop this at once." But the old man merely swept him a cold glance. "Where are you supposed to be?" As the words fell, his aura erupted with a boom. Gideo felt that pressure and cold sweat instantly broke out all over him. "I advise you take your foot off him immediately. He is a young master of the Danri family. If you do not move away now, we will have to act." At this moment, the several guards behind him also assumed battle stances at the same time. But Bonsu saw it even more clearly. An expert whom even the chief of the Black Crow Squad did not recognize meant that this man was not from this area at all. In his perception, even if everyone here attacked together, they still would not be the old man's match. As long as no one courted death, no one would actually die, because a powerful lion never cares about the ants beneath its feet. Instead, the old man looked puzzled. What is this Danri family thing? Is it edible? With his family publicly humiliated, Get exploded instantly. Anyone who dares insult the Danri family will not be spared. Don't be angry. I truly do not know whether the Danri family is food or something to be stepped on. Those words completely ignited Gideo and LT, Unk and GT's fury, and he violently drew the long sword at his waist. "All members of the Black Crow Squad hear my command. Attack at once and rescue the young master." The next second, The attendants behind him rushed forward with swords raised. But the old man did not even twitch an eyebrow. A strand of green chu-kai moved along his fingertips. He opened his palm, and a silver needle as fine as a hair, carrying terrifying force, instantly shot through the air, heading straight for Gidio in the crowd. In the next instant, everyone who had charged forward was struck in the forehead by silver needles, including Gidio, who was leading them, and they all dropped to the ground, their bodies stiff and unable to move. Even lying on the ground, Gady still could not believe it. That strike was like a butterfly that pursued the soul itself. This old man was actually Tang Wu, the soul-chasing poison hand famed throughout the martial world. One had to know that among the murim world, there were 20 top experts. Among them were 2 gods, 3 monsters, 5 peaks, and 10 grandmasters. And the supreme leader of the Sichuan Tang family was one of those 10 grandmasters. The soul-chasing poison hand, Tang Wu. Anyone who offended Tang Wu, even if they died and became a wandering soul, still could not escape his poisonous hand. Watching the Black Crow squad lying all over the ground, Bonsu and LT, Unk and GT's hearts sank. The Danri family was in serious trouble this time, just because one idiot had provoked a figure like this. If it was not handled properly, the whole family could be dragged down. But the problem was, how is this going to be resolved now? While Bonsu was still thinking rapidly about how to avoid this disaster, a young girl stepped out from the inn. "Grandfather, let's go. Don't stoop to argue with a bunch of country bumpkins who know no manners." Tang Wu, who had just been overflowing with killing intent, instantly revealed a smile the moment he saw his granddaughter. As you say, this lesson is enough to make them understand how vast heaven truly is. As a successor of a righteous sect, he starts the morning by getting drunk and causing trouble. By this old man's temper, I should not have let him off so lightly. It is only that I could not bear to be too ruthless toward a disciple of the righteous path. When he wakes up, tell him this. If he dares casually harass an innocent young woman again, he will not live to die of old age. Gio, lying on the ground, spoke with difficulty. "Many thanks for Senior's mercy." Tang Wu raised a finger and gave a casual wave, and the silver needles embedded in everyone's foreheads were instantly all pulled out, flying back along their paths and landing once more between his fingers. But when he turned to leave, he saw something that should not have appeared here. What caught his eye was Bansu, standing in the distance. At that moment, the two of them met each other's gaze. "Wait here for a moment." After saying this, he walked straight toward Bansu. The moment he realized the other man's target was actually himself. Bansu and LT, Unk and GT's back tightened as if he had been locked onto by a hunter. By the time he came back to himself, Tang was already standing in front of him. "Boy, what is your name?" But faced with such a simple question, Bansu froze. This old man has no patience. "I will ask you one last time. What is your name?" The young woman behind him called out impatiently. "Grandfather, what are you doing?" "Nothing." This old man is only asking this little brat a few questions. Bansu was stunned by this. Could it be that the original owner of this body had had some dealings with this old man? But unexpectedly, the first thing the other party asked was simply his name. Seeing that Bansu was still standing there blankly without responding, Tang Wu and LT, Unk and GT's expression darkened. "This old man will ask you one last time. What is your name?" But Bansu still only stared at him straight on, without uttering a single word. "You little thing that still reeks of mother's milk." Tang Wu and LT, Unk and GT's anger surged, and he was just about to erupt when Gady immediately stepped forward to explain. "Senior, he is a horsekeeper, and he is also mute." Tang Wu froze when he heard that, then fixed Bansu with a sharp gaze that pierced over like a blade, and Bansu felt as if he had been seen through completely. Tang Wu looked at him as if he were looking at something rare. Bansu and LT, Unk and GT's heart jumped. This might be an opportunity, his chance to escape the identity of a horsekeeper. Tang Wu and LT, Unk and GT's eyes sharpened, and suddenly he grabbed Bansu and LT, Unk and GT's arm. Stream of green chu-kai instantly poured into his body and began probing. The next second, Tang Wu suddenly burst out laughing. Bansu was full of confusion, but Tang Wu gave no explanation at all. He turned to Guido and said, "You are headed to the Namong family." "Correct." After a brief exchange, Tang Wu confirmed that Bansu was merely an insignificant horsekeeper. Tang Wu spoke directly. "I want to take him with me." "That is possible, but without him, no one will be able to safely deliver that fierce horse to the Namong family." "I see. Then we will travel together. Once we reach the Namong family, this old man will take the boy away. If necessary, this old man will write a letter to your family head explaining the matter." Hearing this, Gio had wanted to wait a bit more. But when his eyes met Tang Wu and LT, Unk and GT's gaze that looked ready to kill, he immediately changed his words. We had originally intended to present both him and that prized horse together to the Namong family. Since Senior Tang Wu has taken a liking to him, then we will do as Senior wishes. Tang Wu nodded in satisfaction and stepped forward. What are you still standing around for? Sit out at once. Gee, I only felt a headache coming on. The situation had completely slipped out of his control. Left with no choice, he ordered the servants to carry Danri Gong away for treatment. The others immediately set out for the Namong family. The scene shifts and night falls. The large party arrived in grand procession before another inn. We and LT, Unk and GT, LL rest here tonight and continue the journey tomorrow. Everyone ate, drank, and recovered inside the inn, while Bonsu alone could only go to the stable to watch the horse. Ever since that battle with the gangs, Bonsu had clearly become much more skilled in using the storage space. After repeated testing, he discovered that it had even more uses. He could take things out of the space, and he could also eject things from it. It was just that the ejection speed was not very fast, and most skilled fighters could react to it. Thinking this, Bonsu casually grabbed a handful of sand and slowly let it fall through his fingers. Just as the sand was about to hit the ground, he immediately opened the system space and stored all of it inside. This phenomenon immediately made Bonsu think of another possibility. He at once continued experimenting and swallowed that handful of sand whole. But the instant the sand entered his stomach, he stored all of it into the system space again. That meant anything that entered his body could be stored away. This was practically a martial art unique to him alone. So he gave it a name, Inventory Space Divine Art. At that moment, Tang Wu and LT, Unk and GT's granddaughter came here. Come with me. My grandfather is looking for you. And so under everyone's gaze, she led Bonsu into Tang Wu and LT, Unk and GT's room. In the center of the room, Tang Wu sat quietly. When he saw them enter, he spoke directly. Get on the bed and sit cross-legged. Bonsu did not dare resist and walked straight over. He sat down as instructed, then took off his outer robe. Tang Wu looked at Bonsu and LT, Unk and GT's body and was clearly very satisfied. Very good. Your physique is even better than I expected. As he spoke, he took a wooden box from his robes. The moment the young woman saw the box, her expression changed immediately. Grandfather, why are you taking out the Dragon Phoenix Golden Needles? Don't tell me you intend to. Tang Wu set the wooden box on the floor. Then he said to Bonsu, have you ever heard the saying that the same tree can bear different fruit depending on where it grows? In good ground, it grows sweet. In harsh ground, it grows bitter. A man is no different. Change the place, and you change his fate. The Danri clan was one soil. The Tang clan is another. In the Danri family, you're just a nobody. But in the Tang family, I can make you someone who truly matters. These are the Dragon Phoenix Golden Needles. I will use them to perform the Golden Needle Great Art on you. The process will be extremely painful. So painful that you may faint on the spot, but if you endure it, I can remake you completely. Even your muteness, I can cure together with it. Are you willing to gamble once? Hearing this, the granddaughter immediately stepped forward to dissuade him. Grandfather, for something this important, shouldn't you first get the approval of the Council of Elders? Tang Wu merely glanced at his granddaughter, then slowly revealed a smile. Is that so? Then, child, are you ready? Take on the Tang surname, and from this moment onward, your life will change. There are many terms in the murim world for extraordinary talent, such as heavenly meridian body, cyclic, sacred emperor, aspect, ninth grade sacred bones, heavenly murim heart veins, and cosmic sacred bones. These aptitudes alone are enough to make one famous in the murim from birth. They are often paired with titles like once in 100 years, once in 1,000 years, or even once in 10,000 years. But above all of them, there exists an even more supreme possibility, and Bonsu happened to pick it up as casually as if picking up a stone. Compared with it, all those talents just mentioned are not worth mentioning at all. Who could have imagined that a mere horsekeeper would possess a miraculous body never before seen in the history of the murim world? The strongest aptitude that exists only in theory, the body without acupoints. If a person has no acupoints at all, that means Shukai is not bound by any fixed pathways and it can carve roads according to one's will. If trained properly, it might even make the lost for a century rain of flowers filling the sky reappear. When that day comes, the Tang family alone could force the entire murim world to bow its head. Holding the future of the Tang family in his hands, Tang Wu could not suppress the upward curl of his lips. I'll ask you again, are you willing to bear the Tang surname and from now on become one of the Tang clan? Banu looked at him seriously, then gave a slight nod. Very good. Then I will first open your run and do meridians. The granddaughter was helpless to the extreme since she could not persuade her grandfather. She could only unwillingly go outside to stand guard. At this moment, all the Dragon Phoenix golden needles in the wooden box had already flown out. Tang Wu released his true outward, wrapped all the golden needles with Chu Kai, and aimed every one of them at Bonsu. Prepare yourself. Begin. With that, he slowly inserted the first golden needle into the crown of Bansu and LT, Unk and GT's head. Everything changed completely from that moment on. But what Tang Wu did not know was that when he and his granddaughter had spoken by voice transmission earlier, they thought Bonsu could not hear them, never expecting that there existed in this world a skill called lip reading. It was a trick he had learned in his previous life for hunting prey, and he had never expected it to come in handy today, a body without acupoints. How could I possibly have been born with something like that? It's probably because of the system which turned me into a strange body halfway between human and player. Now that things have been pushed this far, I'll cooperate with Tang Wu and play this act to the end. By the time Tang Wu inserted the last Dragon Phoenix, Golden Needle, Bansu and LT, Unk and GT's entire body was already covered in golden needles. Looking at his handiwork, Tang Wu sighed in a low voice, "What a peerless body." Although the Meridian Network is only temporarily constructed, the circulation of Chu Kai and blood meets no obstruction at all. In fact, it is several times faster than that of an ordinary martial artist, a rarity not seen in 1,000 ages. It's just that Tang Wu raised his hand and used Chu Kai to draw over the wooden box behind him. At the bottom of the box lay the corpses of poisonous insects, and only one deadly centipede was still crawling on top, precisely because it is so precious it must never fall into someone else's hands. To be safe, I must place a goo inside him. A goo is a poisonous insect raised by the secret methods of the Tang family of Sichuan. It lurks within the body and when not activated, gives no sign at all. If I cannot have him, then I should destroy him. No one else will be allowed to possess him. One night passed quickly. Tang Wu finally finished his work. From this day on, you are no longer a stable hand of the Danri family, but a member of the Tang sect, the foremost family of Sichuan. As for your name, it shall be Tang Sam. Thank you for bestowing the name. This was the first time Bansu spoke. After regaining his voice from an angle Tang Wu could not see, the corners of his lips slowly lifted into a cold smile. After putting his clothes back on, Bonsu directly pushed open the door and left. Tang Wu would never have imagined that the goo insect he planted had been stored in the system's space the instant it entered Bansu and LT, Unk and GT's body. You want to use that thing to control my life? Dream on. From this day forward, Sawoma the Danri family no longer exists. In his place stands Tang Sam of the Sichuan Tang Sack. This is the starting point of my entry into the Murim world. After traveling day and night without pause, Bonsu finally reached the end of the journey with a grand procession. I didn't expect we'd arrive even earlier than planned. Now, dressed in new clothes, Bonsu looked at the scene before him. This was Oni, dominated and ruled by the Namong family. And deep in the mountains near Anwei, the silent night was suddenly torn apart by a shadow that appeared out of nowhere. A black-clawed man on the ceiling drew the long sword from his back. The woman below sensed something strange and let out a terrified scream. The gay-haired man pressing on top of her reacted instantly, barely avoiding the ambush and grabbing the clothes from the floor in the same motion. In the span of a lightning flash, he put on his clothes and steadied himself. Yet, instead of looking first at the assassin, the gay-haired man glared at his own soiled clothes and cursed coldly. "You bastard! These clothes were expensive. Speak. Who exactly are you?" The man in black stared at him in silence. Then he activated a Murim technique, and black Chu Kai coiled around the sword blade. The next second, the man in black thrust his sword straight at the gray-haired man. "Since you won't speak, then I'll beat it out of you." As the words fell, the attacks of the two men collided heat-in. At the same time, the gay-haired man also gauged the other's weight. "What the hell? This weak, and you still dare come assassinate me?" He immediately drew another long sword as well and brought down a heavy slash with it. The man in black dodged swiftly and immediately retreated. "You think you can come and still run away? Stay right here." The next second, the gay-haired man unleashed a dense rain of sword light straight at the man in black. The black-clothed man still did not panic. The black Chukai wrapping his blade grew even stronger, and at that moment, the gay-haired man finally saw through his style. Under the black Chukai shroud, the black sword of the man in black moved like a ghostly specter, instantly dispersing all the sword light. The gray-haired man's gaze sank as he fully confirmed it. "Living killing sword, so it really is you, Mad Cloud. It's been 10 years, hasn't it? 9 years and 220 days. The gay-haired man burst into laughter on the spot. You're still the same mad cloud, remembering even trivial things this clearly. Go on. What kind of matter is worth one of the 18 clouds making a personal trip? I have come to deliver our Lord's command. Carry out the first scheme. Ash Shadow's breathing instantly became rapid. So, it's finally time to move. Where's that guy? Shifting Shadow at the Namong family. On the 15th of this month, it is Shifting Shadow's wedding day. A wedding? Are you joking? Don't tell me Shifting Shadow is. If that's really the case, then what is the purge radius? Other than Shifting Shadow and Namong High kill everyone else without exception. I received word that Tang Wu, the soul-chasing poison hand, will also be arriving in Anhui soon. With the forces on this side, I'm afraid we won't be able to stop him. It doesn't matter. When the time comes, 5 shadows will go there to hold him back. Is that so? Then that will be enough. After delivering the order, Mad Cloud turned to leave, but was stopped by Ash Shadow. Oh right, what was Shifting Shadow's real name again? Mad Cloud looked at him speechlessly, then dissolved into ink and vanished without a trace. Whether in the past or now, your irritating personality hasn't changed at all. Shifting Shadow really is enviable. I used to think something like a shadow was destined to die in loneliness. But he actually became one of the so-called righteous, and now he's going to marry the greatest beauty in Anhui. And I can only stay in a cold place like this, rotting away day after day with suppressed emotions. Ash Shadow walked out of the room with a snap of his fingers. A subordinate instantly appeared behind him. Clean up the room. Also kill every one of those on guard duty today. Yes, division leader. Turned out that Ash Shadow was the division leader of the Anhui branch of the Heavenly Demon Divine cult. He was known as the Silver Lust Demon. Broken shackles, blood-coded, named Ash Shadow. Now the true curtain of the Murim world had only just begun to rise. Just as the Namong family's grand wedding day was approaching, the streets and alleys of Anhui were filled with a festive atmosphere. Everyone was busy preparing for this grand celebration. Please, I beg you, just give me a bite to eat. Faced with the beggars pleading, the guard was utterly merciless. You filthy beggars, get the hell out of here. The beggar kept pestering them and refused to leave. So the guard raised his foot and kicked, sending him flying brutally. The commotion here also drew people out from the residence. What's going on outside? Someone tell me. Young master, it's nothing, just a group of beggars refusing to leave. A passerby nearby immediately recognized him. That is the star of today's banquet, Du Hayak. Truly imposing and bearing. Du Hayak walked over to the beggar. He reached out his hand and smiled gently. Are you all right? After comforting the beggar a few times, he turned and instructed the servants. Give them some food. There are still a few days before the wedding, and there will be leftovers anyway. With that, he turned and walked through the main gate. As expected, just like the rumors say, Du Hayak is not only powerful in martial arts, but also upright as a person. No wonder the young lady of the Namong family likes him. I heard he roamed the Jianghu alone, and in the end, even the Inyang twin demons were defeated by him. Who would have thought that a young wandering swordsman could defeat devilish figures who had run rampant through the martial world for decades? And in the end, he even became the Namong family's future son-in-law. There are even rumors that he has mastered the ultimate art of the Thunderblade Emperor from 300 years ago. As he was speaking, the passerby next to him suddenly bumped into him, and he immediately flared up. Which bastard was that? Don't you watch where you're going? But when he saw clearly who had bumped into him, his tongue nearly tied itself in fear. Tang Wu, the soul-chasing poison hand. Tang Wu grabbed the man's face in one hand, then flung him backward over his shoulder. You worthless thing, get out of the way. This place is full of useless trash. And behind Tang Wu, a large group of people strode grandly down the street. At this moment, Du Hayak was inside entertaining guests, but the commotion outside once again drew away his attention. Everybody get your asses out here. I came all this way, and no one came out to receive me. At this time, Du Hayak had also already come out. Hero Tang, please calm your anger. I'm Du Hayak. Oh, so you're the one who invited me here. Not bad, but only that. If I had met you some years earlier, this old man might have been a little interested. But now it's too late. My standards have long since risen. As he spoke, he lifted his foot and walked straight into the grand residence. The moment Du Hayak saw this, he hurried after him. Hero Tang, I will take you to the Imperial Hall at once. Looking at this unfamiliar face, Bansu suddenly froze for the man before him, gave him a strangely familiar feeling. System notification. An enemy more than 10 levels above you has entered within a 20m range. Staring at the system prompt, Bansu immediately confirmed it was the man before him. That meant this person was extremely powerful. So powerful that the current Bansu could not handle him at all. Most people's bodies are uneven in one way or another, but this guy was perfect in an abnormal way. Bansu smelled the scent of the same kind on him. He had hidden his body by another method. Like Bonsu, this man was a predator. The scene shifted to the Namong family's largest imperial hall. On the roof of the imperial hall was a row of treasured swords planted in place. They were the swords of successive family heads. No matter whether one is a supreme ruler or an emperor, one day all must die. After a few more years, they will be completely forgotten by the world. Tang Wu lamented the ruthlessness of time as he climbed the steps toward the imperial hall. When Tang Wu reached the entrance of the hall, he saw that familiar figure inside. The old man in the hall was the head of the Namong family, and the woman beside him was the female lead of this grand wedding. Namong Hai, Un So Tang. It really has been a long time since we last met, hasn't it? You, the dignified head of the Namong family, are still busy to such an unsightly extent. Honestly, forget it. I won't talk about you this time. You're still the same as ever. From afar, the granddaughter looked utterly astonished, never having expected that her grandfather and the head of the Namong family were so familiar with each other. And Namong Hai also noticed Tang Wu and LT, Unk and GT, as granddaughter. Isn't that Tang Hua? Long time no see. Elder sister, Hai has grown even prettier at this time. The Hayak also walked over. I forgot to greet you properly just now. Amdu Hayak. It is a pleasure to meet you. My name is Tang Hua. So, does that mean I should call you brother-in-law? Namong Hai was so embarrassed she did not know what to do when she suddenly noticed there was still a stranger in the hall. Tang Hua. Who is that him? His name is Tang Sam. Seeing several people look over, Bonsu stepped forward with a smile. Unexpectedly, the Hayak greeted him first. So you're Tang Sam, right? Very glad to meet you. Bonsu clearly felt how dangerous the other man was. But in a setting like this, he had to show enough courtesy. By the way, tonight, I plan to go on a night cruise on the little lake with Namgong Hai. Would you like to come along? Of course. Thanks, Sam. You too. Not long afterward, Du Hayak led the group aboard a pleasure boat on the lake. It was Tang Hua's first time seeing this lake view, and she was so excited she could hardly stop herself. After all, this lake was already famous for its scenery, especially at night. Its beauty was rarely seen in the world. Namong Hai and Tang Hua chatted while enjoying the view. The Hayak, meanwhile, brought Bonsu to the other side. We can't get a word in on women's topics. We men should go have a drink. What do you say? I'll go bring out some good liquor. With that, he headed toward the cabin. On the surface, this guy is the Namong family's future son-in-law. But underneath, he's like a predator hiding its fangs. I know people like that, too. Well, he must be plotting something big. The only questions left are the time and the place. Bonsu vaguely felt that he was being drawn into a huge but invisible conspiracy. System notification. An enemy more than 10 levels above you has entered within a 20m range. Did Hayek trigger it when he just entered the cabin? No. There's another expert on this ship. Following the distance bit by bit, Bonsu discovered the target was on the lower deck beneath the boat. In other words, besides the Hayek, there was another enemy hiding here. Sorry, I couldn't remember where I put the liquor for a moment, so I was delayed a little. This is the strongest bottle in my collection. I hope you like it. But Bonsu was in no mood to drink it all right now, so he could only make an excuse. Sorry, I'm not feeling very well. I'll go rest first. With that, he headed toward the cabin. Bonsu's unusual behavior seemed to arouse the Hayak's suspicion, and Bonsu reached the cabin door. System notification. An enemy more than 10 levels above you has entered within an 11m range. What's going on? I'm clearly increasing the distance, so why is it getting closer instead? The moment Bonsu stepped into the cabin, the distance continued to shrink until it shrank to 1 meter, which meant the enemy was in the compartment directly beneath his feet. Using this positioning, Bonsu locked onto a total of 4 experts, adding Du Hayak made 5. 5 enemies at least 10 levels above me, all on the ship. If they wanted to kidnap Namong Hai, they should have already made their move. Since they haven't, their target is very likely the entire Namong family. The system only says there are more than 10 levels above me, but whether there are 20 levels or 30 levels above me, I have no way of knowing. People of this level sneaking into the Namong family would be enough to trigger a disaster. With Tang Wu beside me, he will never let me get away easily. And ahead of me is a group of powerful enemies lurking in the dark. Right now, I can neither advance nor retreat. What exactly am I supposed to choose? The scene shifted, and here the Namong family's guard unit was conducting a tight patrol. Several guards arrived at the entrance to a waterway. Captain Gossingong, do we really have to go in? Even checking the waterway. Aren't we going a bit overboard? As soon as the captain heard that, his face immediately darkened, and he said impatiently, You brat, you dare talk back too. Is it really that hard to make a round through the waterway while we're at it? The wedding is right in front of us. If anything really happens, none of us can bear the responsibility. As he finished speaking, he grabbed the man and threw him straight into the waterway entrance. The others could only brace themselves, light candles, and slowly walk inside. Captain Gasong, meanwhile, stayed at the entrance and waited in boredom. How boring. It would be nice if an enemy actually came. It's black as pitch, and we can only walk by relying on that little bit of candlelight. Why is it that everyone else is outside eating and drinking while we have to suffer in a hellhole like this? Just then, Bonsu suddenly appeared in front of him and with one breath casually blew out the candle in his hand. In the dark waterway, the three of them were like sheep awaiting slaughter with only the sounds of blood spraying and shrill screams tangling together, then suddenly cutting off. The next second, the screaming erupted once more. Immediately afterward came a burst of hurried, splashing footsteps. At last, a flash of sword light, and the waterway returned to a deathly darkness. Outside the door, Captain Gossing grew more and more impatient as he waited. What the hell is going on? You've been in there this long and still aren't coming out. If I catch you slacking off in there, just you wait. But the moment he went deeper into the waterway, he saw a severed arm floating on the surface of the water. He recognized it at a glance. It was his companion's arm. Captain Gossing Gong was so horrified that he turned and ran on the spot. In his panic, he saw a faint glimmer of light at the corner ahead. But when he moved closer, what he saw was an even more terrifying scene. Strange. Where did I put the other arm? The guards who had just gone into patrol had already been torn into pieces. You came at just the right time. I'm missing an arm. At the sight of this bloody scene, Captain Gossing trembled with rage and charged at Bansu with sword raised. After just a few exchanges, Bansu immediately realized he had judged wrong. This patrol captain was far stronger than he had imagined. Aren't you the one who came with Tang Wu? Your guest. So why are you doing this? After 2 seconds of silence, Bansu said something even he himself did not believe. I can't help it. I'm doing this for your Namong family, too. The moment those words left his mouth, Captain Gossing exploded with fury. Madman, you killed my men and played with their corpses like toys, and you're telling me this is for the Namong family. I'll carve you up slice by slice before my hatred is satisfied. All right, buddies. Thanks for watching the video. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more awesome content. See you in the next one.